Well, hello there, and today we'll be covering the top 10 GeoGuessr tips for Uruguay. Tip number 1. Uruguay has a black Google car, so if you're in South America and you have a black Google car, you can either be in Uruguay, Argentina, or Peru. Tip number 2. In Uruguay, you can get 3 marked road lines in the center of the road, and this consists of a double yellow, and then you get these small dashes between those double yellows. This is very unique to Uruguay over Argentina. You can get very rare circumstances where it can look similar to some Argentina ones or some Brazil ones, but these type of road lines you should only really be in Uruguay. Tip number 3. In Uruguay, most of the signposts are much more wide and thicker compared to the ones you get in Argentina. So if you split between Argentina and Uruguay and you see thick white signposts, you're much more likely going to be in Uruguay. Tip number 4. In Uruguay, you get these trident poles you don't really get in Argentina, and if you do, it's quite rare and it's not as common. Tip number 5. Okay, so this is kind of more of a niche thing, so there are 2 things going on here. So first of all, we have the pole. So this pole is very similar to one in Chile. It's kind of more bulkier than the one in Chile, I would say, but you can get this in Uruguay. I'm not sure you can get it in Argentina. I feel like it's much more common in Uruguay over Argentina, but it's still very rare to find in Uruguay. So if you're in an environment and you see a Chile-like pole, and you're in South America and you don't think it's Chile, there's a very good chance you could be in Uruguay instead. And the second tip here is that this lake has kind of like a unique kind of environment. So it has this very orangey soil with a lot of woodland. You actually get these trees actually growing in the lake, so the water's come in. So that's another clue that you could be possibly in this kind of region around here. Tip number 6. So in Uruguay, if you're in a very developed area, go Montevideo. It's by far the most developed city in Uruguay. You can get some developed ones more towards the coast as well, and some instances where it's a bit further north, but generally very developed city, go Montevideo. Tip number 7. Okay, so this is where I'll talk about the terrain and the hills more specifically. As you can tell, the lowlands tends to be more towards like away from the middle of Uruguay. So keep that in mind. As you can tell, the green bits or the more greener parts is where there are more hills. So these regions here are the best place to guess when you see mountains. Tip number 8. Okay, so in Uruguay, you can get this river. I think it's a river. I don't think it's a sea. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But the main thing I can point out is you can see land on the other side. It's fairly close. But in reality, there's a very good chance that you could be seeing Argentina if the compass shows it towards the west. And the same goes with Argentina. But obviously, Uruguay is more useful. Tip number 9. This is quite a specific thing, and credit to Bullfroggy for coming up with this and finding this, We have guardrails, and you can separate guardrails from Argentina and Uruguay by looking at this kind of part of the pole. It's very hard to pick up on, but I think this is the best example here. So you can see a little dint that bends it a little bit or moves it a little bit. So normally it's at the horseshoe, so I'll call this the horseshoe. So there's no bending at the corner of these 2 tops, whereas here there is. And you can see the bend here, and you can see a faint bend there. It's another good way to separate Argentina and Uruguay. Tip number 10. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about unique Google cars, and this is the one that I feel like most people don't know. And it's this greyish Google car, and you get it near Cabo Polonio. And you're on the coastline, so I can help narrow things down, but we got this. You should only be in Uruguay in this specific region. And my second Google car tip is the white Google car you get in Uruguay. I'm pretty sure I've found it in other areas in the north. I might be wrong, but when you get it, definitely go northern Uruguay. And it can only be a handful of places. And the one that this was found was west of Tranqueras. But that might be the only place that has it. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, definitely go there if you see this Google car in Uruguay. And yeah, that is all the tips for Uruguay. Hope you found this useful. And in the next video, we'll be moving on to the Caribbean, and we'll be doing Puerto Rico. Yeah, of course.